The Hodag is a local Wisconsin fae who protects the critters that live in the Northwoods and the woods themselves. Now, if you're not from the area, you might be asking yourself,
what the heck is a hodag?
A hodag? Well, what in the cotton-picking blue blazes no good pot of beans with no cornbread having is a hodag?
A hodag? Nessie, do you know what a hodag is?
But I've already answered that question in a video that I will link below. It is actually in the Fae Week playlist. But the Hodag is returning for his very own adventure in Dungeon Jam 2026. See, this is an amazing collaboration put on by Naigobi and Mystic Arts, and a lot of amazing creators are participating. We've all come together to create 5-room dungeons that you can use at your own table and drag and drop into whatever campaign or one-shot you might need them for. A lot of these might be D&D specific, but they should be easy to translate into any other TTRPG system, and some of them are even systems of their own. So keep that in mind as you peruse through this amazing playlist. But I figured it would be really cool if my little cryptid friend, the Hodag, made a return and we gave him his own adventure. And since he is a woodland protector, let's give him his own woods to protect. So in this video, we're going to talk about what a 5-room dungeon is and go over the adventure that I've created with the Hodag, including the different outcomes that can happen based on player choices throughout the dungeon. And I will be listing this adventure for free at the Ko-fi link below. Ko-fi, however you pronounce that. So let's get into it. The 5-room dungeon is a classic adventure setup. It is a story structure, and if you're looking at classic dungeon crawling, this is a great place to start. But if you're not here for cobblestone crypts and literal dungeons, you can use it pretty easily as a story arc. The 5 rooms in a 5-room dungeon are 1, a guardian and introduction to the problem, 2, a non-combat encounter, a roleplay situation or a puzzle, 3, a twist or a setback. Oftentimes this is just combat with some minions or lesser enemies or traps. 4, a climax, usually a boss battle. And 5, the loot and resolution. Each of these 5 rooms is its own room that you can go spelunking in and exploring. Or if you zoom out a bit with this, we find that this makes for a great adventure building and story structure, more so than just literal rooms in a dungeon. So much so that you can even take away all the walls entirely and make the dungeon a vast forest, which is where our story begins. This adventure, the Hunt for the Hodag, is leveled for level 6 characters, especially if they're newer to the game. If these players are veterans and they know how to handle their abilities and utilize their characters to their potential, I think level 4 or 5 could be done, but it's definitely going to be more difficult. This adventure also has 2 separate endings for you to use based on the choices that your players make. So regardless of if your players are murder hobos or they're helping every single NPC that they run into, those choices actually matter. The story begins with our heroic party entering a village called Rhineland. Rhineland is called as such because it is a cold, frigid place in the winter months. But now in the summer, it's a warm and humid, vivid kind of green that songs would be written about. This town is actually built on the lumber and timber industry and is mostly lumberjack folk. But despite that, the village is very familiar with responsible forestry and logging techniques in order to keep the environment upright. The town is in an odd sort of way, though, as the team makes their way to the tavern. It doesn't take a ton of probing for the barkeep to start chatting and explain why. People are being killed out in the woods by some vicious beast, and nobody knows why or what to do or how to stop it. Kids are scared to play after dark despite having grown up in these woods and knowing them like the back of their hand. It started with Jasper and then Nicholas, both found dead in the woods not far off a trail. Arthur hasn't been found yet either, but the local tavern keep expect that he's met the same fate as the other 2. Jensen, an old codger that everyone kind of seems to write off as the town loon, can explain that he thinks it's an old spirit, saying that someone must have done something to earn its ire. But the other NPCs shut him down pretty fast, saying that it's just an old folk tale. They are brushing it off as nonsense because nobody has seen the hodag in ages, if they ever even did to begin with. And after all, a giant half ox, half lizard would most certainly stand out in the woods. Right? However, everyone does agree that something weird is going on in the forest. After all, these lands are protected by the village and by the local mayor. There's a lot of rare species of flora and fauna that live here and take up residence in Rhineland, and you don't want to destroy those habitats. That's why the village is focused on the sustainable forestry that is where they're only taking what they need, and anything that they do take, they're doing their best to replace. So if the party goes hunting, they really can only kill what is absolutely necessary in order to resolve this. Any sort of excess death or damage to the local ecology is likely going to end up with them needing to pay a fine at best and a bounty on their head and jail time at worst. Now, if we zoom out from this particular adventure, you can tell that Jensen is our guardian. Our introduction to this adventure, and the town is the first room. It is the introduction to the story, the tavern. The players can ask around the town and tavern both to gather more information, and in the PDF, I actually have a couple of pieces of key information that they can find in said town. But after wrapping up in town, the next logical step is to head into the woods to investigate, which takes us from room 1 to room 2. Room 2 is the puzzle or role-playing challenge. Into the pine forest, the party can find a couple of clues on their way. As they maneuver through the dense pine trees, no perception check is needed to find the body of Arthur, our third missing person, cold on the ground. Dried blood marks show where he was dragged from, and prints of large paws with massive claws attached to the ends. Snapped twigs and large paw prints, but the damage done doesn't add up. See, instead of having a huge trampling barrage that would add up for like a stampede, these footprints feel intentional, as if the beast did its best to not step on anything it didn't have to. It was careful while maneuvering through the woods and growth. It doesn't take too high of a roll to recognize that the person was not killed for food either. There's no missing limbs or any sort of bite marks taken out of him. He was killed and dragged through the forest to get closer to the town to be found as a warning. And then the players find the old abandoned sawmill. This is where our room 2 really begins, the non-combat puzzle. I won't spoil the actual puzzles in the adventure, but there's a few skill checks that could happen and some key clues for the players to find once they are able to enter the sawmill. Sharp blades and rotten wood and dust motes fill the area. The blood trail ends with a splatter at the door and covers one side of the wall right outside of the sawmill, so it's pretty clear this is where the actual fight took place with Arthur. But upon solving the puzzles in order to gain access to the sawmill, the players then stumble into room 3, the twist. They'll find a back room filled with pelts, trappings, tanning supplies, and clearly this is a poacher's cabin, or at least it's been converted into one fairly recently. The assumption that can pretty easily be drawn here is that Jasper, Nicholas, and Arthur were hunting rare species and selling those pelts. And these are clearly not just your standard deer hide or raccoon tails. These are rare animals being hunted. When you consider the rarity of these animals and the fact that this is protected land, it starts clicking just how much cash they were probably making for these pelts. As this twist sinks in and the players debate on what to do if the rumors of that guardian spirit are true, or if they need to take care of these poachers, a scream is heard from outside, and as the party goes to investigate, they see more poachers being chased by a monstrously large half ox, half lizard creature, the hodag. Again, his lore in particular I have mentioned in the past, so be sure to go check out that video after this if you're interested. But his stat block is also in the PDF down below. But regardless, the players now need to make a choice, and it's a pretty hefty one. Do they take down the hodag that is attacking these poachers? Or do they take down the poachers that have been harming the local ecology and wildlife? Enter room 4 of our adventure, the boss fight. Regardless of how the characters have decided to react, weapons are getting drawn. And I've included different stat blocks to make things a little bit more exciting instead of just having the hodag destroy some poachers. That way, if the players decide to side with the hodag, the poachers actually can make this a little bit more exciting than just some bandits getting dogged on. And the hodag stat block is there as well in case the poachers decide to team up with our party to take it down. Either way, this battle is going to be a deciding battle as to what happens next in the Forest of Rhineland. And after that battle is done, regardless of which side wins, there's loot to be had. This includes some powerful magic items, some of which are courtesy of Trek's treasure trove, which again, link in below, and a few of my own tricks as well. After all, if your players choose to fight the hodag will come back and it doesn't forget. And a fake curse is its own adventure to find a way to break that curse. But if the players decide to help the hodag and stop the poaching operation, the hodag can give them a boon as well. And maybe a cool ride to town. And that's the adventure. Everything you need in order to run this is at the link below, and it is 100% free of charge. As always, thank you to everyone who makes Dungeon Jam possible. I love this event, and more so, I love the community that has been able to be created around it. Truly, it is one of my favorite online spaces and my favorite online group of people, so keep doing what you're doing. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to check out the Dungeon Jam playlist down below, or linked somewhere here, and be sure to check out some amazing other 5-room dungeons. A special shout out to Naigobi for the amazing hodag art, and to Trek for letting me use some of the amazing items from your treasure trove in this PDF as well. I also have a link to his treasure trove in the description below. Thank you all, and I will see you next time.